Are the Utah Jazz going to trade Rudy Gobert? And the answer is, I don't know. I know that the Utah Jazz continue to try and trade Rudy Gobert, and it seems like the most likely suitor is the Chicago Bulls. But the single biggest question, will the Chicago Bulls include Patrick Williams? Sources around the NBA yesterday told us that the Bulls have come off of the hard stance that Patrick Williams will not be traded to acquire Rudy Gobert, and that they are more willing to include Patrick Williams in a trade now. But Jake, I guess the question is, Danny Ainge, as we all know, drives a hard bargain. Is his asking price for Rudy Gobert too high?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to say if it's too high. Like, because obviously the asking price for Rudy Gobert, if you're the Utah Jazz, needs to be high, you know? And so I think what we've heard so far and what we've seen is that a first-round pick and one of your best players is basically the asking price right now. And that's why this Patrick Williams situation has come into existence. And so is the asking price too high? Right here today, I don't think it is. But my concern, and again, I've been voicing this for, I think, 2 weeks now, like every day that goes by that this deal doesn't get done, you're losing value. You're basically stepping backwards, in my opinion, just because other teams know that, hey, you don't have the financial flexibility, that you don't have a ton of draft capital that you can go out and simply make another deal with. And so that's why I think Danny Ainge is walking a really fine line here with this situation, because yes, I do think that he wants to move Rudy Gobert, and my gut instinct tells me that he still will move Rudy Gobert. But I think the issue or the conversation maybe is like, what value do they ultimately get back? And every day that the deal doesn't get done, I think that value is just slowly but surely, diminishing a little bit. And that's what concerns me. Again, I don't want to get to training camp and have the story be, well, we traded Rudy, but we didn't really get a ton back because we waited too long. That's my only concern in this situation.
Yeah, and I don't think the asking price is too high. I mean, you're talking about a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. At certain points in the last 2 seasons, Rudy Gobert has been in the MVP conversation. So I don't think the asking price is too high. The question here continues to be, for me, how badly do you need to make this move? And I think they need to make this move. I think they desperately need to make this move, in fact. And I say that because when you look at the salary cap situation, you look at the significance of what today represents. Today's the opening of NBA free agency, and the Jazz, in all likelihood, will not be involved in any meaningful way. And in my opinion, again, and I think from what I've heard from Utah Jazz sources, they don't want to come back with the same team that they had last year. I think they know that that team is not going to compete at a very high level. And if they are not going to compete for a championship, they're going to make roster changes. And the good news is, and I think we've talked about this ad nauseum on this show, I think Danny Ainge fully understands who this team is and where this team is. And those are 2 very important questions that Danny had to ask and address of himself and of this team before he took this job, and he did. And I think he knows that this Utah Jazz team is not athletic enough, and they are not diverse enough to compete. And the biggest issue is they're paying the luxury tax. And the number one offender on this roster and on this salary cap by far is Rudy Gobert. He's making 23% of the salary cap at an average annual value of $41 million. It makes tremendous, tremendous sense to trade Rudy Gobert if you can. But again, I point out, you don't have the assets to go and make any trade you like. Look no further than the Dejante Murray trade yesterday, where, Atlanta essentially sends multiple first-round picks and Danilo Gallinari, who San Antonio is going to wind up buying out, to San Antonio for Dejante Murray, who is a great young player that is in demand around the league, and now he's an Atlanta Hawk. And it's only because the Atlanta Hawks had draft capital. That's something the Jazz don't have. Why did the Jazz not make a trade on draft day? Because they did not have draft capital. You look at the teams making trades, look at what the New York Knicks have done. The Knicks have only been able to operate because they've had draft capital to give up and to acquire and re-leverage for another deal, which we've seen them do. So now the Knicks are in a position where they're going to be able to go out and try and compete for a guy like Jalen Brunson, arguably the best guard on the open market right now. They're going to be able to make him a substantial offer that most people think he'll sign. all of this to say the Jazz are not in that same position, and they need to make a trade. This is no longer optional for the Jazz to make a trade. And they are telling people, hey, yeah, we'd like to move Rudy Gobert. We'd like to move Mike Conley. We are open to trading Jordan Clarkson because we don't have a choice. And I think that is a significant change from where historically we've seen this team, Jake. I don't think they have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the time we're in for the Utah Jazz. I think the Utah Jazz as an organization understand like what's at stake here, which is, we have to take the next step as a team. We have to evolve. We have to get to the next version of what this squad is going to be. And that's why I say, like, it is unnerving, as Donovan Mitchell allegedly put it. It is unnerving. It is a little interesting that it hasn't been done yet, but I think that it's going to happen. Like, that's my opinion, that they are going to make the deal. I just think that Danny Ainge, as you said, is driving that hard bargain. So it's like, how do you find the middle? How do you say as an executive, okay, yes, this is what he's worth, but, we're headed into July now, so like you can't get to the middle of July and not have this done. I mean, that's just not going to be an option. And that's why I say, every day that goes by, it just gets a bit tougher. So I would expect, I got to think we hear something like by the end of next week. I would be really surprised if we didn't. And frankly, I just don't, because like a lot of people are asking, well, isn't it an option to bring Rudy back? Like, can't you bring him back? Like, why wouldn't you bring him back? And I'm just sitting here saying that I don't think that it is an option to bring him back. I don't think that you run the guy through all these trade rumors and basically everything that's been said and then try to bring him back when you know that there was turmoil in the locker room last season, when you know that him and Don don't really get along too well. Like, they'll play together and that's cool, but that's different than being best friends or being really tight and looking forward to playing together. That's two different things. Yeah. So I just think you can't bring him back. That's not an option.
I think that's a really interesting point in that I don't think it's catastrophic. I again will restate what we've been telling you since January. Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are no mortal enemies, and they don't have, huge hate for each other. But what they're not is close. What they're not is friends. What they're not is even acquaintances at this point. They are not guys that are in touch. And when your two best players, the guys that your team and really your organization are built around, don't like each other, that becomes an issue for you. And it created significant chemistry issues in that locker room over the last 2 years. I think that's one of the major reasons that Quinn Snyder is no longer the head coach of the Utah Jazz, because he could not control the dynamic in that locker room. And I think that specifically Rudy Gobert's a guy who wants to be a leader. I don't know that he's capable of being a leader, not in this situation, because of the deficiencies on this roster. And when we look at what's plagued the Utah Jazz, it's defense. I don't think that's any secret. I'm not breaking any news there that defense has been a major issue for this Utah Jazz team. And I think one of the other things that we see so often is that when defense breaks down, you have guys now that we saw last year pointing fingers at each other. You have Rudy Gobert pointing at Royce O'Neal. You have Rudy Gobert pointing at Bojan Bogdanovic. This system is broken. And the only way to move past this is to change this roster. There are all kinds of reasons for the Utah Jazz to trade Rudy Gobert. I think there are very few reasons for the Utah Jazz to keep Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I'm not the general manager. I am not the guy that owns the Utah Jazz.
Well, and I think the reasons are financial and personal.
Yes.
It's human being related and it's financial. Because a lot of times, like, these situations are very much just like a bottom line type deal, like, oh, well, he's making this much and that puts us in this position financially, which means we have to move him. Like, this is kind of different because it is about the money, absolutely, but it also is about what's on the floor and what's in the locker room, which is why I think it's like this three-headed monster that gets resolved by just making the deal. But I don't think, and this is just based on Danny Ainge's track record, he's not just going to make a half-cooked deal, if you will. He's not just going to give Rudy away for whatever. That's not happening. Danny Ainge is somebody who is going to, like, you know, make his point heard about, hey, this is the value. Like, he's going to sell the hell out of Rudy Gobert's accolades and what he's done, and as he should. But I just worry sometimes that this is taking too long. We're dragging our feet on this a bit, and
I
that's
don't
what
know
concerns
about
me.
that. I don't know about that because it's not as though major deals are being done and the Jazz are standing still.
Would you call the Dejante Murray deal a major deal or no?
I mean, I would. I think obviously he's one of the best young players in the NBA.
Because that feels
Dejante
like
Murray.
the first one to me. That feels like the first bigger deal.
I would agree with that, but I don't think the Jazz have gotten left behind in the trade market. Is Danny Ainge asking too much for Rudy Gobert? Probably.
It's borderline, I feel like.
But what would you have him do? I mean, I think major deals have not been done. When there's a major sign-and trade done, or if 2, 3, 4 trades are made today and the Jazz are still standing pat, I'd be worried about that. If the Minnesota Timberwolves make a significant deal, if they trade D'Angelo Russell, I'd be worried about that. If the Chicago Bulls make a major deal where they trade Vucevic, I'd be worried about that because those are the major pieces that have to be included to make Rudy Gobert deals with the Bulls or the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
I think it is disappointing. I think the trade that is more significant than the Dejante Murray trade is the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope deal because the Denver Nuggets got better in that deal. They did not get worse. They got better. KCP is a guy that inflicts his will defensively on people. The Jazz could have used him.
Facts.
That's a guy that it feels like you missed an opportunity, which is what you said when that deal came out. You were texting me saying, hey, feels like the Jazz missed an opportunity there.
Yeah, and again, I this is kind of what I'm getting to with the Rudy situation. And again, this is the other dynamic at play. And I don't mean to make it like so complex, but this is the facts of the case. Like the Rudy deal is impacting other deals that you're missing opportunities on. Like I agree with you. I think the KCP thing, it would have been awesome to go and get him. The problem is you're just going to have a tough time making those deals while you still have Rudy's money on the books. So that's why I keep saying, and again, I don't mean to be repetitive, but that's why I keep saying, dude, like it's not about Rudy's game per se. We're not saying, hey, Rudy sucks, so you need to trade him. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
We're saying, hey, like the money for the value, that ratio is incorrect and it's limiting you in business.
It is the return on your investment.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we do in this world is a value proposition. You're not going to go take a dump today if it's not a value proposition for you. Well, I mean, that's probably an extreme example, but you get my point. You're not going to do anything in this life that doesn't bring you value, whether that you're not going to be friends with your best friend if that person doesn't bring you value. The Bulls are not going to include Patrick Williams if Rudy Gobert doesn't bring them value. I mean, it is that simple. Cody Strickland, good morning to you. First one in today. He says, been out of town for a while. Want to catch up? Want chips on sandwiches? Yes. If you are not putting potato chips in between the bread, when it's, lettuce, tomato, potato chip,
Lay's.
turkey. I mean, I got to tell you, Ruffles with ridges inside the bread is not a bad thing. I am fat. No doubt about that.
This is July 4th weekend. Like, we're going to have chips this weekend, right?
I would think so.
Okay.
On a large scale. He says best fries are at American Burger, hands down. Never had American Burger. And he says, like the new set, and last, where the heck is the Karen Montemayor story? Eventually. Joe Parker, it hasn't started yet, Cody. Relax. Yeah, the show just started, Cody.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Always good to see you, Cody Strickland. I appreciate you. The Blind Swordsman DS. What's up, man? Good to see you. Says, had to defend y'all's honor. People, some Jazz fans get too sensitive about the truth about the Jazz.
Oh, don't get us started on this, man. Why you got to do that, man?
I think it's funny. I think it's funny. And again, I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that every day in this town, somebody sends me a tweet saying, hey, man, did you see that Spence said this about you? Did you hear that Spence said this about you?
Hey,
yesterday it was Ben Anderson was calling you guys hacks from the YouTube show. Okay. Yesterday it was Sarah Todd mentioned you guys on Spence's show. Okay. Then people DMing me overnight, Andy Larson, like calling us out on Twitter. Okay. Hey, we appreciate the pub, man. Thanks so much. And they're like, oh, we don't listen to that show.
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Yeah, you do.
As long as you're talking about us, you don't listen. Don't keep listening as long as you keep talking.
Yeah.
Which I think is hysterical. You don't need to go very far. And I think somebody said this to me in DMs today. Tell me you listen to the show without telling me you listen to the show. Right? Like,
yeah.
To me, it's all good, folks. Like, I love this idea that people are like, oh, you're just trying to get clicks. Yes, I am.
Correct the mundo.
Exactly. I'm sorry. I live in a digital world. By the way, you're only saying that to get people to listen to your show. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's our job. We're
reporting what we know.
We get people to listen to our show, right? Like, and the best one is, well, you don't have sources. Okay. Well, on the Jazz, I would ask you to point to the thing we've been wrong about on the Jazz so far. And it's all, I always say this. Hey, I don't get to hide behind some, oh, well, we don't have that archived. Every YouTube show we've ever done is on this channel. Go back. All you need to do is go back to the day that Rudy Gobert's contract was announced. Watch our show that day.
What did we tell you?
Go back to the day that Mike Conley was resigned last summer.
What did we tell you?
Go back. We can't hide, and we don't hide from anything that we're saying.
We don't need to hide.
And by the way, the other funny part about this, yesterday there was a particular group of angst. We were a big topic on Twitter yesterday for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I love that people talk about us on Twitter and talk about us on the radio, and we're just those guys, the hacks, as they call us, that do the YouTube show. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. And people are like, oh, they don't know anybody. You're right, we don't. You know what the funny thing is? They know us. And guess what? We don't know anybody at the Jazz, but they know us. And you know how we know that? Because they came to us.
Facts.
They came to us.
It's funny how that works.
Sources at the Jazz, we didn't reach out and say, hey, we're those hacks from YouTube. Are you trading Rudy Gobert? They called us. They called us. And the funny thing is, like, people are like, you guys are never right. All I can say is, who was the first one that told you about Kalani Sitake getting a contract extension?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? We just pulled that out of thin air? I love that stuff. So, Blind Swordsman, I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you, sir.
You don't have to defend us, but I appreciate that you do. I do. D's World of Hoops says, nothing to be ashamed of. Keep working. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, and that's the other thing I would say, too. Everyone, well, not everyone, but, like, you know, I see tweets all the time, and people have reached out like, doesn't this upset you guys? And it's like, no, man, it doesn't upset us at all. That's the beauty of it. Like, we don't have bosses, we don't have regulation, we don't have anything. Like, we have YouTube, we have this show for 90 minutes to 2 hours a day, and that's it, man.
Doc J says that Will Hardy looks like he sharpens his chin on wet stone each morning. He does. He absolutely does. Joe Parker says, you were wrong about the head coach. He's not an African-American. Well, I would have hired, as I said, I would have hired Will Hardy, but I don't think he could have gone wrong with Charles Lee.
Listen to me. Hold on a second. I love this notion. Again, go back and listen. I think you misunderstood what we said. We didn't say that the coach they were going to hire was going to be African American. We didn't say that. What we said is that the trend in the league has been young black head coach that can relate to the players. That's
Ime
what
Udoka.
we said.
Yeah.
Like, so what did they do? They went out and got a young white head coach that can relate to players. Like, that's pretty...
And by the way, did anybody notice how many players got on Twitter and, like, celebrated him getting hired?
Yeah, it's a clear win for the organization. I mean,
no doubt.
Like, there's no question about it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. All right, let's keep rolling because we got a lot of people commenting this morning. Appreciate you guys being here. Funky Orient says, good morning. What's up? Ryan Buckley says, morning, guys. Cody Strickland says, do you do what Bridges did last night? Man, if you guys did not hear about Miles Bridges, a free agent, I believe he's going to be restricted, arrested for felony domestic violence last night.
How dumb do you think I am?
Yeah, that's not
good, dude.
That's not good. Not at all. Teddy Wayman says, sup, fellas? What's up, Teddy? Good to see you. Rudy Sanchez, good morning to you. Alex Chacon says, free agency starts today. It's always a fun time in the NBA. This next month, from the day the NBA Finals end for the next month forward is the best time of the year in basketball. I absolutely love it. Love, love, love it. Adrian Harrigan says, I woke up this morning and had a realization that I think Rudy and Mitchell are going to be on the team starting of training camp. I would be surprised if that were the case. I will say again the same thing I've said for 6 months. They're going to trade Rudy Gobert. They're going to trade him. I still maintain what sources at the Jazz have repeatedly told me, what NBA sources around the league have told me repeatedly, is Danny Ainge has worked in earnest. They tried at the trade deadline, didn't feel like they could get the value they wanted, and they're talking to multiple teams about making deals for Rudy Gobert. But again, I don't think he's the most likely starter to get traded. I think that's probably Mike Conley, if I had to guess. I also don't think he's the most likely Jazz man to be traded first. I think that's Jordan Clarkson, because I think Jordan is in high demand around the league. Mm-hmm. But I think in the next couple of weeks, you're going to get a Rudy Gobert trade. Could it happen today? Sure. Does it need to, must happen today? No, it doesn't. There's no timeline for making a trade like a guy like Rudy Gobert. It's simply taking somebody's temperature.
Y'all feel me?
Are the Chicago Bulls willing to include Patrick Williams in a deal? Because if they are, I would make that trade. I would absolutely make that trade.
Yeah.
And you know what? The funny thing is, you don't hear rumors coming out of Chicago because they play things very close to the vest. But what NBA sources told me yesterday is that the Chicago Bulls have been far more willing in the last couple of days, in fact, to include Patrick Williams in a deal for Rudy Gobert. And they see themselves in a position where they can compete for an Eastern Conference championship. And I think that one of the very telling signs, and one of the things that really, I think, gives them hope in that light, is that they see what's going on in Philly. And they understand that James Harden opting out of his deal in Philadelphia is absolutely a game changer for the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. Because what that's going to do is that's going to give a very cash-strapped Philadelphia 76er team flexibility to make deals, to try and move guys like Tobias Harris and have two superstar players. Because I think the sentiment around the league, and most people would agree, is that James Harden is not going to be a 22-point-a-night guy. He's going to return on some level, in some form or fashion, to the guy that he used to be. He will never be James Harden from the Houston Rockets. Those days, I think, are over, mainly because he's not the guy in Philadelphia. That's Joe's team. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody recognizes that. But there's no reason that James Harden can't score 25 points a night. I think the biggest concern in the Eastern Conference is what happens if Rudy Gobert ends up in Chicago. Because if he ends up in Chicago, they are much more capable of defending the Milwaukee Bucks. They are much more capable of defending teams like the Sixers. The issue there is that obviously Joel Embiid has owned Rudy Gobert
repeatedly
in multiple games. Joel Embiid has owned Rudy Gobert, but it gives the Chicago Bulls a far, far better presence defensively than they've had, Jake. And I think that's why they see that if they include Patrick Williams, and listen, I'm a big Patrick Williams guy. I believe in Pat as a player. I think P. Will's going to be outstanding. He needs development and he needs heavy minutes. He's not getting that in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I say that because he's been a bit of an enigma in his first 2 years in the league. He is not a guy that's developed at the pace that I think the Bulls would like, and I think it's kept him off the floor in some important situations. He's also had some injuries. Patrick Williams is in a really important window in his career. If he comes to Utah, he's going to get heavy minutes, and I think he blossoms into a star. If he stays in Chicago, I think he's going to have to be a star. And I don't know that that's who P. Will is, but yeah. I think it is a very interesting discussion. Adrian, I think I don't know that they can bring him back. I truly don't. Ryan Buckley says the Jazz are running it back again just to lose in the first round again and again.
But see,
they're not
I don't
going
think
to do
they can
that,
do
in my
that.
opinion.
Yeah, they're not. You didn't do all the work you've done so far just to run it back with the same roster. Like,
no.
You didn't bring Danny in. You didn't bring, Will Hardy in. Like, you didn't bring, Fizdale in. Like, you didn't bring all these guys in to run it back with the same roster. And that's why I say, once the first deal happens with the Utah Jazz, that will basically tell us the direction they're going to go as far as the rest of the roster. So, like, as an example, if the first deal they do is Jordan Clarkson, let's say, then that will tell me, okay, yeah, maybe Rudy isn't going to get moved, right? If the first deal you do is Mike Conley, and you get some stuff back, like that's a power deal for you, then that kind of sends a different message. So that's why I say, like, it's hard for me. It's hard to be patient right now if you're a Utah Jazz fan.
It is.
And I think we just need to understand that. It is difficult to be patient and sit here and wait when you know the current roster you have is good for a first or a second round exit. Respectfully. I don't mean that in any type of disrespectful way, but that's essentially the cap or the ceiling on this team so far. So if you're a Utah Jazz fan, I understand why you want stuff to get moving, but remember, what was it, Monday, I think we said, hey, we understand why you're frustrated and you want stuff to move, and then the Will Hardy thing got done. So I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time. And I would guess, again, this is just me guessing, my opinion, but I would guess something would happen this weekend. It just kind of makes sense timeline-wise that something will go down.
Yeah, and I think that's the right timeline for the Jazz. And again, if you're just tuning into the show, we're talking about the Utah Jazz trading Rudy Gobert. Don't forget, NBA free agency opens at 4 Mountain Time, 6 Eastern. And obviously all day long we're going to follow those stories. But the biggest question that I have about the Jazz and Rudy Gobert is who's the best suitor for Rudy?
Yeah.
And, again,
It's difficult.
Again, is the asking price too high? I think the best suitor, without question in my mind, is the Chicago Bulls. I think they bring value. But there's a couple other teams that I think make a lot of sense. I still maintain the Atlanta Hawks, John Collins, makes a lot of sense for the Utah Jazz. They don't have draft capital, but neither do the Chicago Bulls, right? But John Collins is far more valuable, in my opinion, to the Utah Jazz than is a Patrick Williams, Nikola Vucevic deal with Chicago.
Agreed.
I think there's
Agreed.
a lot more value in that. And if you're going to get a herder, I think now it's pretty clear that DeAndre Hunter's not available. But if you're the Utah Jazz, I'm not making a trade with the Atlanta Hawks without DeAndre Hunter. Okay, so the Atlanta Hawks are an option for Rudy Gobert, maybe, right? I think one of the strongest options is the Toronto Raptors, who I'll go back to, and we've talked about this for months now. The Raptors and OG Anunoby seem like a trade partner for the Utah Jazz. Is it OG and Gary Trent? That makes a lot of sense to me. Can you get draft capital in that? That makes a lot of sense to me. The issue there is I think you need a third team in that deal.
Yeah.
And I think that third team was going to be Washington, but the guy you want on Washington just wound up in Denver and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And I think Kentavious is a guy that would have fit wonderfully in Utah, but that deal now doesn't happen. So that brings me to my third team, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think Rudy Gobert is a perfect fit next to Karl Anthony Towns. He makes them instantly better. The question is, does D'Angelo Russell fit with the Utah Jazz? And Jake, I don't know that necessarily he does. I am not convinced. Looking at his game, I was watching a lot of tape on D'Angelo Russell last night. I just don't see that his game fits seamlessly. Could you make it work? Yes. But does D'Angelo Russell with guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, guys like Donovan Mitchell, with Will Hardy, does that feel like a Western Conference playoff run to you? It does not to me. I don't feel like D'Lo and Don next to each other is instant success.
I think you're better than you are now, though. I think that
I don't know about
I would
that.
rather have, I can tell you this right now, and this will be controversial, I'd rather have D'Lo than Mike Conley. I can tell you that right now.
But my question is, the other thing is, and we've talked about this ad nauseum when it comes to the Utah Jazz trading Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
The biggest question for me is, what are you going to do to get better? If you make a deal for D'Angelo Russell, you're not better defensively.
That's true.
You're just not. And again, I go back to this Juancho Hernan-Gomez situation. He's got an option that's due today. Do the Jazz pick that up? It's $7 million. The cap hit is $7 million on Juancho Belgrande.
Right.
I'm not picking that up.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think you have to let him go.
Yeah.
because D'Angelo and him are similar. And this is just in the parlance of, hey, can the Jazz and the T-Wolves make a deal?
How do you feel when you say that him and D'Lo are similar? How do you mean by that?
Because I think they're both perimeter players. I think Hernan Gomez is his value to the Jazz is that he shoots the three-pointer really well, and he's going to get you that tap-out rebound. He's going to run through the paint and grab that board. Other than that, he's not a guy that I'm counting on to score points for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, but I also think that D'Lo is a much better player than Hernan Gomez.
No.
Like, I mean,
don't compare the two, because I'm not. What I'm saying is money-wise.
Money-wise.
I'm letting Hernan Gomez go because what he does, I can get from D'Angelo Russell and more. I can get that.
Right.
The issue becomes, who's my starting center now? Azubuike's not ready. Hassan Whiteside's probably not coming back, even though he was a steal. You're probably not bringing him back. I mean, are we going with Coburn? I mean, I don't know where you go at center here.
I think the discussion around, I see what you're getting at. I think, the discussion around what position on the floor are you going to take a risk at is an interesting discussion.
Yes, it is.
I think that the discussion really is centered around how do we because remember the stated goal. The stated goal is, hey, we're still going to be a postseason contender even through this process. So the idea isn't, hey, we have to replace exactly what we have right here, right now.
Correct.
The idea is, hey, within 2, maybe 3 seasons, we need to be competing for the NBA Finals, and we're going to do that in a way where we're still postseason relevant. So, like, to me, with the D'Lo thing, like, I like the D'Lo opportunity because whether you keep him and he contributes or you go and try and flip him, you can definitely flip D'Angelo Russell for some more value. And I think if I'm Danny Ainge and I want draft picks, and I know Atlanta doesn't have picks, I know Chicago doesn't have picks, I know Toronto isn't loaded with picks, like, then I begin to understand, okay, maybe the Rudy deal isn't where I'm getting picks. Maybe Rudy deal is something different.
I still go back and maintain this a 3-team deal. It has to be a 3-team deal. Well, that's what makes the most
sense. Yeah, that's what makes the most sense.
And I just don't think, unless something dramatic happens, I don't see a whole lot of value in a Timberwolves trade. Not for the Jazz and the T-Wolves straight up. I just don't. All right, let's get some more of your comments in here. Adrian, good to see you. Ryan Buckley says the Jazz are running it back just to lose in the first round again. Yeah, I can't see doing that. I cannot see doing that. Rudy Sanchez says the asking price is not high. Gobert is a 3-time All-Star and a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year who also averages 16 points and 15 boards. Again, I'd have a very high asking price on him. So, but again, you know what, Rudy? I don't disagree with you on that.
But again, this needs to be said, and I'm not disagreeing with you about his accolades or what his value should be. But the conversation isn't what his value should be. It's what his value is.
Exactly
right. It's what the Bulls think he's worth, or what Atlanta thinks he's worth, or what Toronto thinks he's worth.
Your value is what somebody's willing to pay for.
And that's why I say, like, the lack of an offensive game individually is really hurting the Utah Jazz right now as far as trade conversations are concerned.
Yeah, because nobody's paying $41 million for a rim protector.
That's just not how the league works, man. I mean, when you're in the $40 million range, again, we're talking James Harden, LeBron, Steph, like top end, best in the world type talent. And Rudy is best in the world type talent defensively, but total package, he's not even close to those guys.
Yep, I agree. Jeremy Bolton says, morning, Rudy coming back, y'all. We'll see. It's definitely an option. Do we think trading Rudy or trading Mike will be the first move the Jazz make? No, I don't know. I don't even know that the order of their deals matters. I think the first move they make is probably Jordan Clarkson, if I had to guess, if there's a deal to be had there. But I don't think the order of the deals matter. I think you have to move money.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's most significant. And again, I just go back and restate, that's why you're trading Rudy. His contract is just, I mean, it's derelict. It's
a chain around your neck,
dude. Man. It's crazy. Karen Montemayor pipes in. Karen, good to see you.
What's up, motherfuckers?
You know. Marcus Denora says, good morning, gents. What would be the best offseason for you guys moving forward? Which guys would you target for the Jazz? I mean, I want athletic wing players for the Jazz. And that's why guys like Patrick Williams, guys like
DeAndre Hunter.
DeAndre Hunter certainly is a guy that I would love to see on this team. And if it's a package deal, like again in Chicago, I think this is why you need Patrick Williams, Alex Caruso. This is why you'd like an Ayo Dosunmu.
Well, and I think this is why you wanted the KCP deal. This is why that was attractive to you, because he's a wing guy, can shoot it, and holds his own defensively.
But I need guys who can do what I can't already do.
Right.
I can't defend at 3 levels. I can defend at 1 level.
Yeah.
You need guys who can expand and push out on defense. You know, like that's just really important. And I think you need 3-point shooting. I think when it comes down to it, and again, this is something that I think a lot of people have struggled to answer on this team. Who are you going to when you need a 3-point shot? If the game was today, I mean, we
know who it should be.
It should be Don.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the playoffs in Dallas, it was Bojan Bogdanovic. That ball didn't go in the hole. In the bubble, it was Mike Conley. That ball didn't go in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need 3-point shooting. And I know that sounds crazy. Hell yeah, they take a lot of 3-point shots.
Yeah.
They need a knockdown 3-point shooter. And my feeling is I'd like that to be a guard. I would like it to be, because Don's greatest asset, in my opinion, in this coming year is going to be penetration in mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already a really good 3-point shooter, but he takes the most heat. So he doesn't often have space. And that, to me, is the biggest issue. I'd really like a 3-point shooter coming back. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
In my opinion, for the Utah Jazz, I really want a 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
I want wing defense. Absolutely. Gabe Ledley, good morning to you. He says, buckets, bag of balls. Speaking of Gabe Ledley in Phoenix, how about this DeAndre Ayton situation?
Yeah, I think the DeAndre Ayton situation's a very interesting one. I think DeAndre Ayton is an opportunity for the Utah Jazz in the sense that they could be a third team in that deal. And again, that's the other side of this that I feel like nobody in Salt Lake is talking about. It's not just whether, you know, the Utah Jazz are going to trade guys or how that's going to go down, but it's also looking at the league and identifying opportunities to be a third team. Like why would you not try to be a third team in a DeAndre Ayton sign and trade where he gets shipped out to, you know, there's been rumors about Brooklyn or a bunch of teams. You know, we really don't know where he would go, but why would you not want to be involved in that? I mean, that is a prime opportunity to pick up picks, like, all day.
Yeah, totally agree. Key himself gives us $2 this morning. Thanks for the tip, Key. Appreciate that. By the way, there is a tip button at the bottom. If you tip us any amount of money, we're going to read your comment first. He says, please get hoop nerd James Hansen on the show. I don't know who that is.
You got to change the camera here.
I am not. Oh, I'm sorry. I am not aware of who hoops nerd James Hansen is.
Yeah. Do you have like a handle for him or like a...
Yeah. Cody Strickland says, for $2, Cody, appreciate you. Does Rudy work in Will Hardy's system? I think anybody can work in Will Hardy's system. I don't think there's any question that Rudy Gobert can be leveraged. Look, listen, Rudy Gobert has a purpose offensively. I mean, he is a screen roll lob guy. And until he shows otherwise, until he shows growth and development, I don't know how you go there. I don't know how you expect more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's see. James Knight says, forgive my Australian ignorance, but do you think it's far too easy for player movement in U.S. sports?
I think that's a great question, to be honest with you.
I think that is a great question,
Yeah, that's
James.
a great question.
I don't. I think that we don't respect players enough, in my opinion. The player is the property. Are there guys like Kyrie Irving who become a problem when players are given too much autonomy? There are.
Mm-hmm.
Are guys unprofessional? Yeah, we're talking about a Zion Williamson contract. What's his deal? Zion Williamson's looking at 5 years and $180 million.
Fat.
For a guy who hasn't played and has proven nothing in this league.
Yeah.
There are players that are problems. For every one of those guys, there's a Kobe. There's a LeBron. There's a Kevin Durant. For every one of those guys. And I think, in my opinion, players are the guys that make you the money. This is why the NIL pay college athletes thing has always been ridiculous to me. You got a bunch of rich white guys making billions of dollars on 18-year-old kids, and the kids aren't making a penny.
Mm-hmm.
Right? your highest best use is the money that you can make. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Whether that's tricking or dunking a basketball, do what you got to do. Because probably, probably too much. Antoine Willis says, Murray to the Hawks reaction. Love it.
Yeah, I love it.
I think Dejante Murray and Trae Young are going to be a formidable duo.
Yeah, I think the issue for the Hawks in recent postseason runs is that they didn't really have a second scoring option like on your own guy. I mean, it was basically Trae Young trying to drive and kick or knock down the three, and if he didn't have it going, they weren't going to win. And that's why it was so important for them to go and get a guy of Murray's ability.
But they have Kevin Huerter and
they do.
Bogdan Bogdanovic and your mom.
Right, yeah.
Hey, guys.
They needed a legit number two. And again, not to keep going back to the Jazz, there's a problem with the Jazz.
Yeah.
The Jazz have Don and everybody else. They don't have a legitimate number two.
And I think Murray is going to push Trae Young as far as number one and number two. It's always going to be Trae's team, but I think Dejante Murray has more than enough talent, dude. I mean, he is a savage.
He is absolutely a stud. There's no doubt about that.
Oh man, dude from Sacramento, the Fox.
De'Aaron Fox. He's
De'Aaron Fox with a bigger body. He's just as fast, better finishing package, stronger. Like, that's who he is.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do. Jacob Yates says, get rid of Don. 6'1", high-volume shooters are a dime a dozen. Dort just became available, way less money. Wait, I'm sorry. So are you saying that Lou Dort's a better player or the same player as Donovan Mitchell?
Come on,
bro. You got to be better than that. Julio Simone Perez says, Jake Fisher said yesterday on his podcast that Atlanta, Toronto, and Brooklyn are interested in Royce O'Neal. Do you see a chance for Ainge trading him? I think, again, Rudy and Royce are a package deal. And I think the biggest issue in Brooklyn is that they don't have a lot of cap space to leverage. They have all of your regular exceptions. They also have a pretty nice trade exception, but they're not in a situation, again, where they can go and make a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Patty Mills opting out of his deal in Brooklyn, is he going back? There's some people think that Patty Mills will go back to Brooklyn. That cat's going to be in demand in this league. He can knock it down. So I think keep a close eye on Brooklyn. Brooklyn has a lot of moves to make. But I think Royce is absolutely a guy that's got value around the league. And it's no surprise, by the way, speaking of Royce O'Neal, that he's all over social media busting that ass, getting in shape.
Yeah.
Like, he is working hard this offseason.
Well, and again, you can't forget that these guys know that change is coming. Like, that's the other thing that, again, nobody's talking about. Like, these players know what's coming. I mean, it's no secret what's going to happen here.
No, and I think that's a very good question. I really do, Julio. I think that he has got value around the league. Joris Tuiza says, how about a trade for the Clippers? Well, there's a lot of people who think that Danny Ainge is trying to get Nick Batum from the Clippers. I don't know.
He's good at playing a small ball five. He is really good at that, and he can knock the three down, so I get his value.
But what's the net gain there?
What's
the net gain
that
there?
You can run a high-flying offense through him in the middle. That's the gain. And he's experienced. He's a veteran. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Jordan Nelson, good morning to you, Jordan. He says, are the Raptors overvaluing Anunoby? Would they even be willing to include OG and Gary Trent Jr. in a package? I think they would. And I think they wanted that deal at the All-Star break. And I don't know what their appetite is for it now, but I feel pretty good that the Raptors, well, I don't feel pretty good. I know almost for a fact that the Raptors want Rudy Gobert, and I know for a fact that they have engaged the Jazz on multiple occasions to try and get that deal done, and they just haven't been able to put it together. And I think Danny's done a really good job of waiting. Don't mistake. Danny Ainge could have traded Rudy Gobert already, and I think he's done a really nice job of waiting. Really, really nice job of waiting. Red Hart Norvis, good morning to you, friend. He says, Atlanta just got Murray, and they're really pushing, which could be a team involved in the Gobert trade. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And this is the thing I don't understand when people say that we've been wrong on everything with the Jazz. How many teams have been involved with Rudy Gobert? Really involved? There have been 4. The Chicago Bulls, the Toronto Raptors, the Atlanta Hawks, and now the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we've told you that from the get, pretty much from the trade deadline.
Yeah.
We've told you that from the get. And I I just think Atlanta makes a lot more sense. Human being wise, there's a lot more value in the Atlanta Hawks roster than there is in.
Well, they didn't lose anybody.
Yeah, well,
in that deal, that was the thing.
But I'm not interested in Clint Capella, and I know there is a relationship there, and I know that Will Hardy knows him, and we get it. I'm not interested in Clint Capella on this team. I want John Collins. I want him to be my starting five. Give me 2 years of John Collins and Will Hardy, and let's see what we can build. Because he makes you instantly better. And are you better defensively? Yes, because he is something more than a rim protector. And again, this is why I say we all want to write off Hassan Whiteside. I wouldn't be writing off Hassan Whiteside because if let's suppose you make this Atlanta Hawks deal.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you have Hassan Whiteside and John Collins on this team, you're in a really good position. John can be your starting five. Hassan Whiteside can be the same role he was last year. And whether he flakes and is an emotional disaster, okay, that's fine. I've got John Collins. And John can shoot the three, defend at 3 levels. Like, I want John Collins. Yeah. That's the guy. I have no interest in continuing to be leveraged by acquiring Clint Capella. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the biggest problems for the Jazz is that you're leveraged financially right now, and you've got to fix that.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to fix that. Jordan also says, I can't watch a D'Lo Don combo. I don't think that works.
Well, and that's
really
what I'm saying. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that like, certainly I want them to go and get D'Lo, but what I am saying is that if you were to do a deal with Minnesota that brought D'Lo here, you could easily flip D'Lo for value. And that's what I think that's what fascinates me about this time of year, where it's like, what deals can you make that on the face maybe aren't great, but then you can go and take that guy and flip him into X, Y, and Z. That's what I think Danny Ainge is really good at. And my feeling is that the reason this is taking some time is because it is going to be a 3-team deal. It is going to be a bigger, like, 4 or 5 player thing and some picks and some money. And like, that's to me what the Gobert deal is in reality.
Breaking news from Woj. 4-time All-Star guard Kemba Walker and the Detroit Pistons are finalizing a buyout. And once that is done, Kemba Walker will be a free agent.
Pack this thing up. We're out of here.
Kemba Walker's got value, man. I'm telling you. Came from the bottom. Good morning. Says trade Donovan. That's y'all only hope. Okay. Hullabilly says good morning, fellas. LA says trade Conley and Bogey for Julius Randle. See, and I like Julius Randle on this team. The Jazz have no interest in Julius Randle. I've been told that twice directly.
Yeah.
That the Jazz have no interest in Julius Randle. But I like Julius a lot. Joris Tuisa says, Gobert to the Clippers, who going to be traded to them? I don't think Rudy Gobert is going to the Clippers. You just signed Ivica Zubac to an extension.
Rudy doesn't really fit with what they do either, in my opinion.
And I think they know all too well that Rudy doesn't fit with what they do. The Clippers are not going to pay $41 million a year to him. I just know. Spencer Morgan, what's up, my man? He says, if no other team are willing to pay the asking price is too high.
And see, that's the tough part. If you don't like the asking price, right? Like if Danny is like, man, everyone is just lowballing us, I got to be stubborn here. At some point, Danny's going to have to compromise and come down in that price. I don't know when that is, though. And that's why I say it really, like, I think that situation with Rudy is really dictated by what other trades you make. Like, if you were to move, whatever that trade was we just had, like Royce and Mike for Julius, let's say, not that that's going to happen, but if you were to make a deal like that, that's obviously going to impact how you feel about Rudy Gobert's situation and how aggressive you're going to be with that,
Yeah.
So that's why I say the order matters, but it also doesn't matter. It just depends what happens.
I don't think it matters at all. That's just my opinion. I would love to see a situation where they trade Royce O'Neal and Mike Conley for Julius Randle. Sign me up for that every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
But do you see, that's the thing. Julius Randle is another premier scoring option for his size and his position. That's ultimately what I think they need no matter what they do. They need that second guy who can just come in and give you 20, 25 a night on his own.
Yep. James Knight says James Hansen is a lunatic. His podcast is unwatchable.
I don't even know who the hell that is, man.
With all due respect. Alex Chacon says, do you think OG Trent and 2 picks is too little for Rudy? No, I don't.
No, I think that's the perfect
I'd
deal.
do that deal right now today.
No hesitation.
Right now today. I would absolutely do that deal. I think OG Anunoby's the wing player you've been looking for. Gary Trent Jr. is a lockdown defender.
That's every day.
And has improved dramatically as a 3-point shooter. And yes, give me 2 picks. Please, God. Give me 2 picks. Dominion Small says, you think Chicago will throw in Dosunmu? No. I still maintain, and I've heard repeatedly, that Chicago is not open for business on Ayo Dosunmu. He is a good young player. He's a Chicago kid. He went to the U of I, University of Illinois. Like, I just don't see any way that they include Ayo Dosunmu. I don't. Mr. E says, I can't believe the amount of Jazz fans that want to trade Don. The lame fan base never said a word when he was passive crap like Hayward, Trey Burke, and Rodney Hood. Woo! Ouch.
Yeah.
That hurts. Cody Strickland says, I wish we could get Patty Mills. I don't know. Patty Mills, he can still shoot it, but I don't know how much gas is left in the tank. And the thing that worries me is I'd rather make a mistake young than make a mistake old.
Yeah, I mean, if Patty Mills is in the conversation, I'd rather just keep JC. I mean, why? Like, you know, why wouldn't you?
Eric C says, amen to that, Mr. E. Eric C, good to see you. Let's see. Talking Red Heart Norvis. Gobert, Royce, Package, and D'Lo smells like Jazz, Minnesota, Atlanta, Toronto.
Agreed.
Could be. Yeah, absolutely could be. Alex Chacon says, my guess is Danny is asking super high so he can get the deal he wants by negotiating down. Well, I mean, I think that's absolutely the right way to go about it.
Baby.
Big Dog O-Town says, I watched Hoops Nerd till I discovered the dynamic duel trending. $2 super chat, but won't let me send it, maybe because it's only $2. Oh, man, really? I want that bread. We only do this click for super chat tips.
Yeah. We're only trying to get people to click on the show so you guys can donate to the show. You know what I mean? That's basically all we're trying to do.
Appreciate
here.
you, Big Dog O-Town. Rec One says, what were the cons of Randall when you were he's not on the Jazz list? Well, I think attitude is a big deal. And I think Julius is a bit of a high maintenance player. And I think Julius Randle is an alpha male. And I think Julius Randle, one, he's left-handed. And I think that's odd for a lot of teams. I think that Julius Randle is a high maintenance player. And I think his reputation precedes him a little bit. And I think Danny Ainge is well aware of Julius Randle. I'd love to see him. I would love to see him. Yo Pamp says, what do you think about John Wall going to the Clippers? John Wall going to the Clippers is a huge loss for the LA Lakers. Who again are salary cash strapped by some bad decisions. I think it's one of these things where John Wall should have been a Laker last year.
Mm-hmm.
They should have traded for him and Eric Gordon, and they didn't. And I think they're paying a penalty for it.
Yeah, LeBron's definitely paying the price.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Jeremy Bolton, trade Trent Forrest, Gobert, Conley, Bogey, and buckets. So trade me for Caruso. Huge value for the Jazz. Alex Caruso
buckets.
Alone.
Oh, trade me.
I still love all the Royce O'Neal Buckets O something nicknames. There was one yesterday that was Buckets O Yoda. We don't simply try. We do. Exactly right.
Well played.
Jarrett Richardson. What do you think about Marvin Bagley the third to the Jazz? Meh.
I just think he's not a player of consequence. You know,
No.
like he's not somebody where, like, at least with Julius, you can be like, all right, yeah, we'll bring him in and he's gonna bully somebody. He's gonna change the flow of the game. Marvin Bagley has just never been anything, honestly.
Marcus Denora, $5 tip. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
Says, what does Hardy's offense with Ty Jazz look like? Could they get Ayton? Man, so the story on DeAndre Ayton, who we covered and we know him well in Phoenix. DeAndre Ayton's just soft, physically and mentally. And the reason that I think Phoenix is so unwilling to give DeAndre Ayton a max contract is because you cannot even lean on that guy without him breaking. And when you're on a championship caliber team, and I don't think anybody denies or questions the fact that the Phoenix Suns are a championship caliber team and have been for the last 2 years.
Yes.
He's just mentally soft. Monty Williams has begged him to dunk on people, and he won't do it. They've begged him to stay attached defensively. He won't do it. And it's not that he can't, it's that he can't focus, so he won't do it. He wants to shoot jumpers. He doesn't want to dunk on guys. He doesn't want to be the meanest guy on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And so when CP3 and Book and Monty Williams are on him like, hey, you got to be a badass here, it broke him mentally. And he had a meltdown. And to me, I think you have to unload him, Marcus. And I don't think that Utah's a good fit for him. Frankly, I think Atlanta's a tremendous fit.
Yeah, I don't
DeAndre Ayton.
I think it is a question of whether he's a max player or not. I can't say that I disagree with Phoenix on not wanting to pay him a max.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm not giving him $180 to $200 million.
I just think it's a massive commitment for a guy who's shown you that A, he struggles to catch a basketball, and B, he doesn't want to end the other team. You know, like that's what you need your big to be.
And that's the right way to say it. He doesn't want to end the other team.
Yeah.
And, you know, much to Rudy Gobert's credit, as much as we know his struggles offensively, he wants to block every single shot that's taken every night in the NBA. Not just in the game that he plays.
Dude,
Rudy wants to block every shot.
The Ja Morant block was one of Rudy's best moments as a Utah Jazz. I mean, that was one of the best blocks I've ever seen a big man in the league have. And that's why I say, like, at least with Rudy, for all the offensive deficiency, at least on the defensive end, you know what you're going to get. And the problem is, and this is why I say it's a bit unfair to Rudy, but the problem is it's not his fault that the Clippers schemed him out of the damn play. Like, it's not his fault. It's the issue is this roster is just so limited with the guys they have on it. But so that's why I say when you look at, hey, are they going to trade Rudy? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? 9 times out of 10, it's not even that the individual player sucks. It's that the roster and how it all plays together is not good. They struggle. They don't have athleticism. They are not a big team. Like the average height in the league now, I think, is like 6'8", 6'9". So 6'2" is not getting it done anymore, and that's largely what this team is.
Yeah, and by the way, one other thing that I would mention as we roll towards NBA free agency, 4 Mountain Time, NBA free agency opens, say, at 4 Mountain Time. Watch the Clippers and Luke Canard. That's a guy that I think he and Isaiah Hartenstein are 2 guys that they're going to have to figure out how to move.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Kennard's a knockdown three-point shooter that has some real weaknesses defensively. And Luke is making $14 million. And that's a guy that I think they would like to move, especially with John Wall coming on board. I think I'd watch the Clippers be more active than not, because I think they're going to sign John Wall. It's simply a matter of how they're going to do that. If I'm the Clippers, and I know they want to keep Hartenstein. I know Hartenstein wants to be there. I just don't know that they can afford him. And I think Luke Kennard is expendable. I think you look at the guys on that roster. I mean, the Norman Powells of the world. I mean, they have guys, obviously, you're paying Kawhi Leonard and Paul George $42 million apiece.
Mm-hmm.
But I would keep an eye on that club today. That's a team that I think you're going to hear about. Red Heart Norvis, my man, back again. I wouldn't mind Gobert Royce getting traded even just for picks and get those picks materialized before the All-Star break. But the problem is you can't just trade Rudy and get nothing in return.
Yeah.
Like, you need a physical human being in return that's a star player. And from what sources have told us on this show, the Jazz minimum requirement for Rudy Gobert is a star player and picks.
And I think that's a fair asking price. I do.
too.
Know, I think that's a completely fair asking price.
Yeah, I would agree. Travis Bird says, good morning, Monty. First-time listener. Travis, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks, man.
Ruff's official, good morning to you, my friend. He says, you keep seeing all these Jazz fan base haters. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, they're definitely
around.
So here's the thing, and I think just what he's saying is that there's like a lot of it going around right now, and yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There is a lot of it going around right now, and what I would say is, hey, everyone's talking about us. I ain't got a problem with that, you know. Even if it's negative, I don't care. That's cool with me.
Yeah, I agree. Why aren't you reading my comments? I'm trying. We get a lot of comments on the show.
Who said that?
Jimmy Joe said, why aren't you reading my comments? Is it because I'm a hater? No, it's not because you're a hater.
I didn't even know you were a hater.
Yeah, I didn't know you're a hater. Yo, Pam says, can we see Kemba Walker getting traded or going to an NBA playoff team? I don't think so. I think he's not going to get traded. I think he's going to be a free agent, Kemba.
Yeah, they're going to buy him out.
Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN.
The 4-letter Death Star.
is saying that Kemba Walker is going to get bought out by the Pistons and that he'll be a free agent. And I think Kemba's had a rough journey since he left Charlotte. So it'll be interesting to see where he where he ends up. Topher85 says, love the show. New listener. Thank you, Topher. What are the chances the longer it takes for Gobert to be traded that he ends up coming back and maybe traded at the deadline? I think that's absolutely a possibility.
I don't think that's ideal, though, man.
It's not ideal, but I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, you're don't forget that the All-Star game is here this year, and
allegedly,
even though I'm told it's not the case, supposedly Ryan Smith wants 2 All-Stars, Don and Rudy, in that game. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I think he wants 2 All-Stars in that game. He would love that. And I don't think he cares if it's Don and somebody else, if it's Don and D'Lo, if it's Don and, whoever. I think he'd like to have 2 All-Stars there. But you know what, Topher, I don't think there's any doubt that that's a possibility that Rudy Gobert could come back to this team. That would not be my best outcome. There's no doubt about that. Again, I still maintain I think your best outcome is something with Atlanta, and preferably with DeAndre Hunter, which I don't think is going to happen. But John Collins would be a nice prize. Let's see. So Eden Murick says trade Monty in a bag of chips for James Harden. Well, am I worth $47 million?
Depends on the chips.
Good question. James Knight says James Hansen does have 8K subs. Hey, good for him, man.
I'm not hating. I've never heard of it. I just don't
know who he is. I
literally have never heard of it. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have a big show or something.
Yeah.
Like I just haven't heard of it.
Travis Bird again. Giggity says, love seeing all these first-time listeners chiming in on chat. Yeah, welcome, everybody. I know there's a lot of new listeners to the show. Love having you here. Love your comments.
Hit the like button, please.
Yeah, if you're here right now, please hit the like button. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. That, that makes a huge difference for us. So if you're here now, please do hit the like button. Let's keep rolling because we got to get to NBA free agency as well. Swag Vids says, hey, Gabe, thanks for pointing that out. Dislike.
Pointing
Gabe,
what out?
Gabe Levely says, also picked up over 100 subs already this week. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It's been a good week. Giggity says, if that is the asking price, how much of Rudy's contract will the Jazz eat?
Well,
I don't even know that that's part of the equation.
I think it has to be. If you're the other team, like dealing with the Jazz, I think that's definitely what you're asking for. Is it not?
Yeah, I don't know. I have not heard that. I think it is. I don't know. I don't think that's part. I don't think that's part of the equation.
Yeah,
I really don't. Eric and Raleigh says no such thing as bad press.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Chris Trost says, are the Bulls a contender with Rudy Gobert? Absolutely they are. I think if you add Rudy Gobert to Zach LaVine, if you add Rudy Gobert to DeMar, to Ayo Dosunmu.
Just think about what they need him to do. Like, think about how different it is. The Jazz don't need Rudy to score. He will score, but they don't need him to score. What they need from him is the screen setting, the rebounding, the presence defensively in the paint so that they can play better defense. Like the things that Rudy does fit in really nicely with Chicago, and that's why I think they are a great suitor for him. But again, it's just this whole dynamic around what is Rudy's value, what does Danny want, what is Danny asking for, how that all plays out. That's what's tough.
The biggest issue for the Chicago Bulls is that Lonzo Ball has not been healthy.
Yeah.
You're paying Nikola Vucevic makes $22 million a year. I mean, and he is a zero defensively. You have got to get your guys to stay healthy. It's guys like Caruso, Lonzo Ball, Javonte Green. You've got to continue to develop Ayo Dosunmu. You put Rudy Gobert in the middle of that world, and you subtract Pat Williams and you subtract Vucevic, you're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
The lane is closed. I mean, Rudy Gobert does one thing exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
Protects the rim, and he does not allow you to get to the cup.
Thanks.
And when you look at the way that teams ran by Vucevic last year and went straight to the basket, there is no doubt that the Chicago Bulls are a contender to win the Eastern Conference with Rudy Gobert in the middle of that team.
Yeah.
It just is. Let's see. George Mashika says, we need Portis or Porter Jr. Team needs one or two great wings. Bobby Portis opted out of his deal yesterday, which I think caught some people by surprise. I think he's in for a big pay raise.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Speaking of Chicago Bulls alumni.
Yeah.
I'd love Bobby Portis on the Jazz. The guy can straight play. Another Chris Brickley disciple that can really shoot the ball. He's going to get paid. He is going to get paid. Ruff's official says if the Jazz fan base wasn't as engaged as they are, you'd have the Sacramento Kings. Exactly right.
Agreed.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
No, I don't
Totally
think
agree.
there is any doubt about that.
Yeah.
Big Dog says $1.
Shout to Mobamba.
Okay. We appreciate that, man.
Did it let him do it? Because he was saying it wouldn't let him do $2.
I think he did. But, hey, appreciate you, Big Dog O-Town. Thank you very much. David Morris says, I'm wondering if the trade talks quieting down is a sign that Jazz may roll it out with a new coaching staff versus change of players. I actually don't think that's what it is. I think Danny Ainge has been diligently working. Justin Zanuck, I can tell you, has been on the phones daily all day long. They're trying to make a deal. The reason the Jazz have been so quiet, and when I say quiet, they haven't made any deals because they don't have trade chips. They don't have draft picks. And the deals that gotten done, look at the Dejante Murray to Atlanta deal. I mean, San Antonio got multiple first-round picks, and they're buying out Danilo Gallinari.
Yeah, the picks were the deal. Like
you look at the Nick deal you talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
All draft picks in those deals.
Yeah.
The Jazz don't have draft picks, and that is a big determining factor on deals that have gotten done already. So, it just is, to me anyway, and it's just my opinion. I think that's why you haven't seen a deal get done. Dominion Small says Portis can play and punch guys too. I love his attitude.
Yes.
Yeah, he's that guy you hate when he's on the Bucks, but when he comes to your team, you want Bobby Portis on your team because he'll get you a rebound, and he is a guy that will battle underneath. He plays with tremendous emotion, and he can really shoot the ball.
Bobby Portis over Hassan Whiteside all day long.
Oh, stop. Yeah, that's not even a comparison. That is not even a comparison. Can we see Bradley Beal getting traded, Yo Pamp says? I don't think so. He wants to be in Washington.
Yeah.
He wants to be in Washington. Jordan Adams says, any rumors on where Mike Conley could be traded? Well, I'd have told you 2 days ago, I'd have told you Washington. And I'd have told you that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope would have been in that deal. If you're a Jazz fan, that deal ought to piss you off because the Denver Nuggets got better.
And they didn't have to give up a ton. Like, I don't know. A lot of people say they didn't get better because they gave up Barton in that deal. But to me, I think it...
But you know what he is. You know what Barton and Morris are.
The problem is that you need Murray to come back. You need him to come back,
and he
bro.
will.
And he is.
And he will.
By all counts, he's fine.
You combine stylistically, and who knows what Jamal Murray's going to be when he comes back. You combine Murray and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Dude, they're going to be much better in the backcourt.
With Jokic.
And who knows what they do with MPJ. I mean, you don't know if he's healthy or I have no idea what
he's really good when he's healthy.
When he's on, he's on.
Yeah, he's really
I
good.
don't know physically how his back is. But Jokic, by the way, today is likely going to get 5 years. You should probably sit down. And if you're listening in the car right now, please put your hands at 10 and 2. Nikola Jokic is going to get 5 years and $264 million. That is, and who is blowing my phone up right now?
Man, who's blowing your phone up right now?
Oh, nothing. Just stupid text messages.
Dude, what is that? 50 a year? 55 a year?
55 a year.
Bro.
It is
53 a year.
For Nikola Jokic. That's the largest contract in the history of the NBA. And he's worth it. I mean, because they say he is.
You better be ready to pay that luxury tax, bro.
My God, that's a lot of money. Travis Bird says, trade Mitchell and keep Rudy. So, defend that for me, Travis. Because I'm open to the conversation. I mean, I'm open to that conversation. Defend Donovan Mitchell versus Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
I mean, give me 2 minutes on Donovan Mitchell. Break down Donovan Mitchell's game for me.
I just think Donovan Mitchell is somebody who is an individual scorer. Donovan Mitchell is somebody who I think has a lot of top end left. I think right now the issues that I have with Donovan Mitchell are lack of defense and lack of leadership. And I think the leadership piece will develop quite quickly once chemistry in the locker room is better. I think that Rudy Don power dynamic was not good, and it hasn't been good. Like, historically, if you look at teams, like, power dynamics and those grinding against each other don't work out real well. The only one that's really worked out well was Kobe and Shaq, and that's because they set their differences aside for a minute so they could win. So to me, when I look at Donovan Mitchell, I look at a guy who is undersized, but also can really get his own. And I think that, as we've been telling you, like, the mid-range game for Donovan Mitchell specifically, like as an individual contributor, is vital, because once he has the mid-range game and he can knock it down from the elbow consistently, then he becomes a problem from three. He becomes a problem driving, because you have to respect the pull-up and the step back, and like that. That's what made James Harden, Rocket James Harden, so tough, because he could get it anywhere on the floor, and that's what Don doesn't have yet, and that's why he's developing that.
And here's the truth. You're going to get, in my opinion, a much higher end result. And this is what so many Don haters will not look at. And I can only say this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
The top end of Donovan Mitchell is superstardom. The top end of Donovan Mitchell is the best player in the NBA. If they develop him, he stays healthy. Donovan Mitchell has the ability to be the best player in the NBA. You know who Rudy Gobert is. He's 30 years old now. He's not improving. He's not growing.
Yeah.
You can trade Rudy Gobert and get a haul in return. Why would you not do that? In a league where this league is built around guard play, dominant, superstar level guard play. Look at the guys who are going to get paid, with the exception of Nikola Jokic, who rarely inflicts his will in the paint. Look at the guys paid in this league. Look at the teams with championships. The Golden State Warriors have won 4 in 8 years with guards, not with centers. You look at teams like the Milwaukee Bucks. Who's the Milwaukee Bucks' best player? That's Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's a wing player. Where is Chris Middleton? He's a wing player. Look at the Phoenix Suns. Who are their best players? Devin Booker and Chris Paul are wing players. This league is not built on Rudy Gobert. It's built on Donovan Mitchell. And that's why the Utah Jazz, since the time that Danny Ainge walked in the door, have told Donovan Mitchell, we are committed to you. We are going to build this team around you, and we are going to spare no expense to make sure that we put you, Donovan Mitchell, in a position to win a championship.
You're welcome.
It's not close. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm happy at the end of the day, if Donovan Mitchell is a complete bust and the Jazz trade Rudy Gobert and they never win another game in the history of the franchise, I'm happy to say I was wrong. My guess is they're going to trade Rudy Gobert. And in not this coming year, the next year, a year from now, they're going to be in position to compete for an NBA championship. And it's simply a matter of swallowing some pain pills right now. Mm-hmm. You've got to trade Rudy. You've got to trade, in my opinion, Jordan Clarkson, and you've got to trade Mike Conley. I'd love them to also include Royce O'Neal. I'd also love them to keep Jordan Clarkson. But from what I understand, that's not going to happen. So my feeling is, and again, to answer your question directly, I would tell you that Donovan Mitchell has far, far, far more value than Rudy Gobert does to this team, just based on the way he profiles. All right. Dominion says hard to build around a big ask. Ask Philly. Yes, that's exactly right. Mr. E says Rudy can shoot 5 feet from the basket. The man was losing layups in the playoffs. Even Mutombo had mid-range. Don't disagree with that. Giggity says, I'd rather have a few terrible years and build off lottery picks than make playoffs every year and never get past the second round.
Agreed.
Wow. Look at Giggity just walking in here and kicking everybody in the balls.
Agreed.
I'm for real.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
All right, couple more, then we got to get to the non-sports stories of the day today. And real quick, I do want to talk about NBA free agency because I think, as we've talked about on the show, what do you make of this Nikola Jokic deal? I mean, it is $52.9 million a year.
Yeah.
It is 5 years. Again, the number is $264 million.
Mm-hmm.
They have no choice but to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's his max eligibility. I would have, if I'm Denver, I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, you're going to do it in a second. I think, he's earned it. He's lived up to it. He's been everything that you could ever want a star player to be. I think the conversation around it is just like, holy crap, that's a ton of money,
yes,
dude.
It is.
Like, just not even like you could be giving this to Embiid or Cat or whoever, and I'd still say, holy crap, that's a lot of money, man. Like, that is a lot of money, and
yes,
I'll be curious to see what the cap implications look like after that's done.
Here's another big one. Zion Williamson. Should the Pelicans sign Zion Williamson to a $180 million max contract?
Yeah, one that's not fully guaranteed and requires him to play 70 games a year. Yep.
I think it's going to be really difficult to have him on that roster because they were very good without him.
Yeah.
And I
pushed
think
Phoenix to 7 games, wasn't it? Or was
Yes.
it 6 games?
Yes.
6 or 7 games?
And I think you're in a situation now where Zion Williamson, and I have never said this before on this show, so mark it down. It's June 30th at 7:45 a.m. Mountain Time. Zion Williamson is in elite physical shape. He looks fantastic. Like he is finally, I think the light's finally gone off in the brain that you were going to lose everything that you had earned. And he clearly is benching. He has lost weight. He looks trimmer. He has added muscle, lost fat. It looks like he does lift now. I think if they sign him to this extension and keep him in New Orleans, I think they're going to wind up trading him no matter what. And if I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, I wouldn't have him play another game. I just would not.
That's pretty much self-explanatory.
I think that's crazy. By the way, the other big name today that everybody's watching because all of a sudden Jalen Brunson's taking a meeting with the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, listen, the Knicks can offer him far more money than the Heat. But you're not going to New York to win. You're going to New York to collect paychecks.
Yeah.
Should Jalen Brunson sign with Miami or New York?
Well, I think that I think that for him, I think he wants to get paid. So I would sign with New York. But there's a lot of people saying that he's only taking these other interviews to avoid tampering charges and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see, like, if he does inevitably end up with the Knicks, then it may have just been that.
Listen, I'm not going to the Knicks. And this is the Donovan Mitchell thing we talk about all the time, and that is everybody links Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks.
Oh, Don Coughton, he's going to the Knicks.
Admittedly, the Knicks have repeatedly called, as recently as this week, they have called the Jazz to ask about Donovan Mitchell's availability. And again, the Jazz have said, we're not interested. We're not having the conversation. Donovan Mitchell doesn't want to be a New York Knick right now.
Yeah.
And I think, from what I understand, that Donovan Mitchell would eventually like to wear the Knick uniform. But I think Donovan wants to win, and he wants to win now. And I do think that Donovan would be open to teams like the Heat. But I don't think Donovan Mitchell wants to leave Salt Lake City. I think he wants to win, and he wants to win now.
Yes.
And I think that Donovan Mitchell has been eerily quiet, and I say admirably so. I tip my cap to Don. This nonsense about him tweeting out about a new rap song and stop. The guy has not said word one ever has he gone to the Jazz and demanded a trade.
Yeah.
And I've been told that multiple times by Utah Jazz sources. He's never asked for a trade. And I will tell you, I talked to a lot of player agents around this league who universally say Donovan's not asked for a trade. I think Don eventually would like to be a New York Knick. I don't think he wants to be a Knick right now.
Yeah.
I just think they're not very good. That organization is not great. If I'm Jalen Brunson, I'm not going to the Knicks. I'm going to the Heat because they very clearly, you're not winning a championship in New York.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be on a postseason team, you'll go to the Heat, you know? And what I would say is, like, I understand, I even agree with the logic, make as much money as you possibly can during your playing career, but these guys care too much about winning just to simply play for the money.
I agree. Luis Campasso, good morning to you. Why send anyone to New York unless you hate them? Not going to disagree with that.
Agree, dude.
My man, Eric and Raleigh, Gobert is 30. The development time has passed. I agree with that. Luis also says, why send... okay, well, man, that comment came in quick. Ryan Kent says, haha, Alec Burks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alec Burks, not in New York anymore. He's a Piston now. Eric and Raleigh says Gobert is 30. Why are my comments repeating? He also says he isn't going to win in Utah. The Warriors are the best bet in the West and will be for the next 2-3 years. The Warriors are actually a very interesting team as well because they're going to have to shed some money at some point. You can't continue to pay the luxury tax at this level. And again, I think at some point this is going to come down to Andrew Wiggins or Klay Thompson. And if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I'm taking Andrew Wiggins over Klay Thompson. And if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I'm calling the Lakers about a Klay Thompson trade.
Yeah.
And because I think they would like to.
That's
By
tough,
the way,
bro. It's tough.
By the way, did anybody see that Russell Westbrook opted in to a $47 million player option yesterday?
Bro.
He will be the highest paid player in the NBA this year.
Come on.
$47 million for that, bro.
Dude, it's just ridiculous,
I'm
man.
fine.
It's just absolutely ridiculous.
I'm fine. I'm completely fine.
Yeah, dude, I'm
I'm not doing that. I'm not. Eric and Raleigh says Joe Lacob is going to keep paying the tax. He will, but you can't be leveraged the way they're leveraged for the next 3 years. I mean,
Well,
I also wonder, because this Klay Thompson thing is one thing, but this Steph Curry, Draymond Green story about how Draymond Green admits that Steph Curry saved him in Boston.
mm-hmm.
And Draymond Green admits that the Boston fans had gotten into his head with the F Draymond chants. And that's why Steph Curry was doing the loud jump around flex on Boston's bench to deflect anger towards himself to save Draymond Green. And Draymond Green says it absolutely saved him.
Yeah, and I believe it 100%. I mean,
By the way,
that's the type of guy Steph is.
How long does Dre have in Golden State?
Plenty of time.
You think
Plenty
so?
of time, yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I think they're going to keep paying the luxury tax. You're going to win as many championships with this current setup as you can. And then once this setup ages out, then obviously you'll cut down.